Thanks, Jenny. That was a really good start. Something a bit different now. So we are the National Churches Trust. And so before I launch into grants, who are we? We're a national charity, so we support churches across all 4 countries of the UK. And what we really want is to keep the kind of amazing collection of church buildings, like the one that we're in today in this country, well maintained, valued and used. So just to touch on a few of the things that we've done recently, our most recent thing, which some of you may have seen already, is that last year we launched Every Church Counts, which is a 6-point plan to kind of save the nation's church buildings. There are lots of things in there, including support for some of the incredible volunteers, some more support for them. There's a bit of ask for money, and there are various other things to kind of try and drive some change and get some movement in that sector. The other thing which you may be aware of is our House of Good report, which quantified the value of church buildings to be about £55 billion. That was back in 2021, so it's probably more than that now, but it was just to try and give an idea really of how important these buildings are and how much of a difference they make. The other few things, I won't talk too much about these, but we were really fortunate to distribute some funding as part of the Heritage Stimulus Fund a couple of years ago, and that was we were able to distribute £3.6 million to 32 churches for that, which was lovely. We've also got 2 National Lottery Heritage funded projects ongoing at the moment, one in Northern Ireland and one in Scotland, Wales and the North West called Cherish, which is providing additional support in those areas. And in 2023, we made 251 grants, which totaled about £2.26 million. Has that moved? Oh, that one's moved, that one hasn't. So we have 3 grant programmes at the minute. We have an annual core grants budget of about 1.5 million, which you will notice is slightly less than what I said we gave out last year. We were really fortunate last year to have an anonymous donor who gave us a very large donation, so we were able to match fund that and give out some more, which was a really lovely thing to do. But we have these 3 core programmes, which I'll talk in more detail about on the next slide, so I'm not going to talk too much about these right now. Not wishing to be negative, but before we get onto that, I do just want to mention what we don't fund, just because we get quite a significant number of applications that aren't eligible. And it's really because we, much like Jenny, don't want you to waste your time applying for something that just we can't help you with. So typically I say if it's the fabric of the building, if it's the structure of the building, you're fine. If it's outside or if it's not attached, it's probably not going to fit with our funding. So things like heating and lighting, any fixtures, so clocks and bells and things, pews occasionally we see. Decorative features, so stained glass and wall paintings, sadly, not for us. And anything outside of the church buildings, so churchyards and boundary walls, all those sorts of things. The other thing is building new churches, or if you're building a structure that's separate, so it's not attached, probably not going to meet our criteria unless there's a specific heritage reason. Do ask us about that if that's you. If you do need funding for any of these things, you can call or email us still, and we'll try and point you in the direction of somebody that can help you. We do try and help you as much as we can, even if we can't do it with funding. You can also have a look on our website. So if you go hover over Get Support and click on this Grant Funders handy option there, it will bring up a big list. This is just the top of the list. If you scroll down, there's funding for all kinds of things. You'll find sections for organs, for bells, for clocks. So you can start your journey kind of having a look there, but do get in touch. And if we know of anyone else that, we may not have been able to update this yet, or somebody that's particularly in your area, we will pass that on if we do know about them. So this is our eligibility criteria. Every application starts with a quiz, so we just ask you to tick yes to all of these. Please be honest. If you can't say yes to something, probably means you need to go away and address that first. If you're getting stuck on it, just give us a ring, send us an email. We'll be more than happy to help you work out what's going on and what you need to address. So firstly, you need to be located in the UK, which I don't think anyone here will have a problem with. It needs to be originally built as a place of worship, so unfortunately converted buildings aren't eligible for our funding, and also still open for regular worship. So by regular worship, that is only 6 services a year. So for most churches, that should be manageable. We also ask that you're open beyond that for 100 days a year. It might be that you're just opening the doors and people can just come in and visit, or it might be that you're doing loads of activities in your church. All of those things that you do in your church that aren't church services, they all count towards that 100 days. It's only twice a week, so hopefully that's not too tricky. Work mustn't have started yet. We're also not a retrospective funder, so you do need to get the application in before you apply to us. Otherwise, we won't be able to consider it. The application in before you start work is what I should have said. We need to see some match funding in place. We need to see that you've got about 50% of your project costs before you start. For most of our programs, we have dropped that for one of them this year, but it's really good if we can see that anyway. We also expect you to have a qualified professional leading the application, leading the project. That's usually an architect or a chartered building surveyor, and if your building's listed, we'd expect them to be conservation accredited. And finally, you need your permission, so if you're an Anglican church, that's your faculty or your List B, or for Methodists, it's property consents, whatever that is that you need, and we'd expect that you've got multiple quotes. So I'm going to talk about each of our grant programs in a bit more detail. I'm not going to repeat those criteria every time. So our small grants are awards between £500 and £5,000, and this year we're really fortunate that we can, in some exceptional cases, we are allowed to go up to £10,000, which is really exciting. These are for maintenance and repair projects up to £20,000. So typically we see things like fixing some slipped slates on your roof, or a little bit of repointing, that type of thing. We'd like to see this identified in your quinquennial inspection report, if you have one. If you don't, if you can do another sort of survey, get somebody else to say, yes, you do need to do this, that's really great. And then all of our other criteria do apply. You'll spot that there's a maintenance plan down there at the bottom. This does apply to all of our grants. It's not an eligibility criteria, but it's really nice if we can see that. This particular programme is mainly funded by the Pilgrim Trust, and they're very focused on maintenance and making sure that church buildings are really well maintained. So if you show that, it will make your application much stronger. If you don't have one, it will be a condition of a grant award if you are successful to put one in place. So do bear that in mind. We can help with that. We have templates and advice available on our website. This is a rolling programme. There's a deadline every 2 months, so whenever you apply, you can just get put into the relevant round. Then we have our medium grants. There are 2 strands to these. The first is this, which is project development. This is for anything up to RIBA stage 1, which will probably not mean a lot to many of you, but it's when you want to do something. For example, if you want to put a toilet or a kitchen in your church and you haven't really developed that project yet, and you want to do a feasibility study or an options appraisal to look at all of the different things that you might be able to do, that's the typical kind of thing. It's not just that, but that's a kind of idea of the standard types of things. You also might want to investigate an issue that you're having. If you've got some water ingress or something, try and find out what's causing that before you jump into the repair. All of our usual criteria apply, and there are 3 decision rounds for this per year. And then the other stream of the medium programme is the repair stream. So these are awards up to £10,000 for essential repairs that cost between £20,000 and £80,000. So similar things to the small programme, but just a bit bigger: roof repairs, masonry repairs, that type of thing. Again, all of our normal criteria apply. And again, these are 3 decision rounds a year. So all of our grants go to our independent grants committee, who make the final decisions. And finally, the large grants programme. So these awards are up to £50,000. I would caveat that by saying it is unfortunately a very competitive programme. At the moment, we get more applications than we can fund. So the average grant award is around £15,000. That's not to say they don't go up to £50,000. I think in our most recent round in March, the largest grant was £40,000, and previous round to that it was £30,000. So there are some bigger grants awarded, but just bear that in mind if you are applying. And this is for two kind of streams to this again: urgent structural repairs costing over £80,000, or installing new facilities. So if you want a new kitchen or a new accessible toilet, and it's going to cost over £30,000, you can apply through that as well. Last year we introduced a 2-stage process. This is similar to the kind of expression of interest thing. The first stage is just a more detailed eligibility check, and we really just introduced this because lots of people were telling us they were filling in a very long, complicated form and then just being told it was never eligible in the first place. So it's really just to hopefully save you a bit of time. If you are unsuccessful in that first stage, we will tell you why so that you can go away and address that and come back. We do understand that you might not be, particularly with some of the bigger projects that come into this, you might not be at the stage of having quotes or tenders in place yet. So if you're not at that point, that's all right, you can still apply. We just would like to see a detailed estimate from someone like a quantity surveyor so we know what you know what you're expecting. All of our normal criteria do apply to this as well, and like the medium grants, there are 3 decision rounds a year. Text has gone a bit weird there. Never mind. We also do distribute funding from some other funders, which is a lovely thing to be able to do. So the most kind of obvious one that you might be aware of is the Wolfson Foundation, who give us a grant of about £400,000 a year to distribute for essential repairs. And these are for buildings which are grade 1 or grade 2 star listed. It's a grant of up to £10,000, and that can be in addition to any National Churches Trust grants. So if you apply through our medium or large programme, all you have to do is tick a box at the end of the form to say you're interested, tell us how much you'd ideally like, and we'll automatically consider you for that funding if you're eligible for it. We do also recommend to several other funders too. It varies from year to year what funding we might have available. So if you tick that box at the end of the form, if you're eligible for any other funding pots that we have, we will consider you for them. You don't need to do anything extra. There's no extra form. You just tick that box. And just to remind you of the List of Places of Worship grant scheme, which is guaranteed until 2025. If you've got a listed church building, don't forget to claim back your VAT. Very quickly, I'm just going to show you what it's going to look like if you do decide to apply for one of our grants. So you'll see all these tiles on our website. All you can do is click through to the one you want to apply for, and it'll look a bit like this. And then if you click on how to apply, you'll see a red button which says guidance notes. We really, really recommend you read these because it will make the process easier and less stressful. You can check that you're eligible, and you can see some guidance on the online form. It will tell you about the kind of criteria that we score against. So if you have a good read of that, it will also tell you a list of the documents that you're going to need when you submit the form. It will just make it much easier once you actually get started. And then when you're ready to apply, you can click on this yellow button. That's red on red, which isn't very helpful, but it will take you through to a portal that will look like this, and you'll just need to register the first time that you use that. So this is the process that applications go through. So I've just mentioned that guidance. You then submit the application through our online forms. If you have any problems with those online forms, we are on the end of the phone. We do have you can contact us by email. Don't sort of hesitate, just get in touch. We'll be more than happy to help you out. Then it's assessed internally. So that's by me and my colleague Heather, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, but does normally look after the southwest of England. We prepare those to go to our grants committee, and then they go to our independent grants committee, which is a panel of experts and people with loads of experience from both the church and heritage sectors. They make the final decisions, and then we send you a letter by email to let you know the outcome of that decision, and we try and do that within 2 weeks of that meeting. These are our next deadlines if you are thinking about applying. So the stage 1 applications for our large grants are in the 2nd of July. For medium applications, it's the 13th of August. And the next deadline for small grants is the 30th of April. But don't worry, that is very soon. There will be another one at the end of June, so you've got plenty of time. The only other thing to mention is we do have other resources available, so we're not just grants. We have, as I mentioned, lots of maintenance advice. So if you new to maintaining your church building, there's lots of resources that we can point you towards for that. We also run a training calendar throughout the year. My colleague Sarah looks after that with lots of training on different things. We've done some training on fundraising. I think there's one on maintenance coming up, and some on publicity and social media. So worth keeping an eye on. There's a wide range of things there. We also have a funding and support organisations database on our website, which is helpful if you're searching for funding potentially. And a 5-point guide to developing your project. So if you're in that early stage and you're not quite sure where to start, that can be a really handy place to start, sort of guide you through that process. And we also have a specialist skills directory. So if you're looking for a tradesperson for something, there might not be someone there, but there might be. It's probably a good place to start. So this is my last slide. It's just our contact details. If you are interested, if you have any questions, you can get in touch with any of us at any time. It's me at the top, my colleague Heather, who's currently in Canada, isn't that nice? And some general email addresses. So if you email any of them, there are quite a lot there. It will reach the right person, so don't worry too much. And our phone number's not there, but if you do prefer to call somebody, you can call, and most of the time there is somebody available on the end of the phone. So that is the end of my presentation.